Thank you. Hello, everyone, again. Be ready for the next departure. So we start today with another nice poem from Geoffrey Hudson. It's called At Borobudur. I'm sure many of you went there. So let's listen to that poem and looking at some picture. Timeless and spaceless is the story of the Buddha. Eternally true, not of one man alone, but of all men. Not of one world alone, but of all worlds, even those invisible. Buddhahood is the consummation of all life, the goal of all being, and of enlightenment there are degrees. So Borobudur is an incredible place, something like 5 million blocks carved and put together. We can find also the history of the Buddha, of the life of the Buddha. Following enlightenment, a path of no return lies before us. The legend of the Buddha tells of an awakening brought about by his discovery of suffering. Buddhism is not pessimistic, it is realistic. Buddha did not deny happiness in life. He just said that because everything is impermanent, every happiness is part of suffering. Then he explained the different category of suffering: birth, old age, sickness, death, association with unpleasant person and condition, separation from beloved one unpleasant condition, not getting what one desires, suffering produced by changes, desire and attachments. We still remember how Madame Blavatsky talked about killing out desire, killing out love of life, desire nothing. The thirst for existence and becoming, and even the thirst for non-existence. So what follows is a path, a search for the path that will liberate from suffering, and the description of the path leading to enlightenment. So that's the four major saying from the Buddha. It's a very simple thing from the beginning. It's become very complex later on. But that's, I mean, if we can just understand inside our hearts those four truths, that may help us to go further. Madame Blavatsky told us that nirvana is the state of absolute existence and absolute consciousness. This quest, the quest from the Buddha, involved an exploration of the path commonly used at the time where he was living. So he went through yoga, deprivation, isolation, etc., which will lead to dead ends until, driven by the despair of not finding the right path, he decided to reject the traditional path of his time. And he decided to sit at the foot of the tree of awakening until enlightenment. It will be recalled that his first reaction when he was asked to share his experience with the world was to refuse, explaining that it's almost impossible to share such an experience. Can we speak of enlightenment? Can we speak of the ineffable? Can we speak of what we have not experienced? Definitively not. So I think my lecture will stop now. We will give room for a 10 minutes meditation. That's everything. So let's sit in a comfortable posture. Let's do a very quick body scan. First of all, let's sit quietly. Let's do a quick body scan to release any tension, because we always have tension which are there. We don't even think about them. To release a tension, we can breathe in, concentrating on the tension, and then breathing out by all the power of the body, expelling the tension. Then we want the monkey I was talking yesterday to go away. And if during the meditation the monkey came back, we want gently to have it to sit down quietly, not to disturb the inner silence. And then we want to forget we are here. We said that we cannot speak about what we have not experienced and what is enlightenment, but like sailors who are navigating uncharted water, we need a lighthouse to guide our path. And before us, beings have reached this state of enlightenment. Let us try to listen to their testimony. They all tell us the same thing. So we start with St. John of the Cross. He said, he who truly reaches this point, talking about enlightenment, sees himself failing. Everything he once knew seems to base to him, and knowledge grows so much within him that he remains without knowledge, knowing anything, transcending all knowledge. Beneath l'aérophagie, rising ever higher, we discover that this origin is neither soul nor intelligence, that it cannot be accessed by imagination or opinion, intuition, thought, speech, or definition. It is neither number nor order, neither immense nor infinitesimal. In it, there is neither equality nor inequality, neither resemblance or dissimilarity. It remains motionless, moves and rests. And the last one is from Shankaracharya. During Samadhi, the wise realize in his heart the infinite Brahman. And this Brahman is a certain something of the nature of eternal intelligence and absolute bliss. It has no equal. It transcends all limitation. It is forever free. It does not act, and like the immeasurable ether, it is indivisible and unconditioned. Let us try to put a few words on this ineffable state. Buddha means literally the enlightened. the highest degree of knowledge. To become a Buddha, one has to break through the bondage of sense and personality, to acquire a complete perception of the real self and learn not to separate it from all other selves. To learn by experience the utter reality of all phenomena of the visible cosmos, foremost of all, and to reach a complete detachment from all that is evanescent and finite, and live while yet on earth in the immortal and everlasting alone, in a supreme state of holiness. So let's go through those different qualities which have been expressed there. It's coming from the glossary that I just mentioned. First of all, breaking the connection with the senses and the personality. We had already some discussion on that. Here we have two distinct categories with which a connection must be broken: the senses and the personality. Breaking the connection with the senses, what does this mean? Patanjali Yoga referred to it as the phase of withdrawal of the senses, following the four first stages: the moral code, the personal conduct, the posture, the breathing. We got to the sense withdrawal. It's not a matter of breaking the connection with the senses, but redirecting the awareness of the sense inwardly. Another theosophical text speaks of killing the desire for sensation. The sense organs are precious aids that put us in touch on a permanent basis, connecting us with reality. We often say physics is not, we are not our physical body and so on, but physics is part of the reality, and we are connecting partly with it through the senses. But we have a mechanism, mostly unconscious, that transform and distort the perception of reality. Let's observe the process. It begins with an external or internal stimulus to which the sense organs are sensitive. In the case of the external senses, this phenomenon is transformed through chemical process into electrical information that will be transmitted to the brain. There is a signal recognition process which is automatically initiated based on a comparison with all the signal already stored into the memory. And as soon as the signal is identified, a noise, a sight, a smell, a taste, a physical sensation, another process is automatically initiated. Our personality, with all its past conditioning, will make a value judgment. I like it, or I don't like it. And that's it. We have lost touch with the reality. And our reaction to this stimulus will be conditioned by this value judgment, grasping what we like and rejecting what we don't. We are in our subjective world where the Lord of Lies, the little ego, is the Grand Vizier who would think he is the Caliph. The same theosophical text that speak of killing the desire for sensation explain the meaning of this verse quite well. He says, let yourself be instructed by the sensation and observe it, for only thus you can begin in the science of self-knowledge and place your foot on the first rung of the ladder. It will be useful to focus our attention, or rather to develop it, so that we can be fully aware of all the stage of the process and thus be able to slow it down as not to systematically fall into the value judgment phase. This is one of the main practices of ancient Buddhism described in the Satipatthana Sutra, the development of right mindfulness, which will be followed by the development of right understanding. This practice has the merit of being simple, understandable, and applicable in any life situation. You don't need to be in a monastery to do that. Every day, every situation can afford that. It involves developing attention to breathing, to the body posture, to the sensation, and the mental content. And the key word there is slowing down. Slowing down our automatic reaction, which too often result in value judgments. This Buddhist text has been taken up and adapted for our Western environment by Professor John Kabat-Zinn. He has been stripping all the religious aspect of it to keep the practical side. And it would become a now fairly widespread healing method called mindfulness meditation, which aims to calm emotion and the mind and attempt to discern reality. Breaking the connection with the sense and the personality are the first two steps on the path. And Christian mysticism also considers them the preliminary step to achieving divine union, which is the equivalent of enlightenment. St. John of the Cross again begins his treatise on the ascent of Mount Carmel with these words, where it is said that the dark night is and how necessary it is to pass through it to attain union with God, and especially it is treated of the dark night of the senses and appetites and the harm they do to the soul. What St. John of the Cross tells us in his commentary is that the soul, which means the personality, by means of appetite, sustains and feeds on all things that can be tasted by its power. This is the metaphor of always more for me. The personal ego, in order to continue to exist and to draw us into its world, needs to feel that it exists. And for it, it generates an inexhaustible fountain of desire. Each desire will generate momentary pleasure and immediately after a lack, which itself will provoke the search for more pleasure, etc. And that's the remedy you can see on this, going from me, me, referring me and the other and me. And we could add the last one, which would be only the other. The dark night of the sense advocated by St. John of the Cross is quite explicit as what it means. He said this is why we call this nakedness night for the soul, for the personality, since we are not dealing here with the deprivation of things. That's quite important. We often think that we should cut the connection with the senses. That's not what he is saying, because it does not strip the soul if it has the appetite for them, but with the nakedness of taste and appetite that one take in them. This is what leaves the soul free and empty, even though it possesses them, because the things of this world do not occupy the soul and do it no harm, since they do not penetrate it, but only steal it. So that was the first bullet. The second one is to acquire a complete perception of the true self and learn not to separate from the other. Here we can go to the ancient Indian tradition, more specifically the Advaita Vedanta movement, which tell us through Sri Shankaracharya, the Vivekachudamani. The Vivekachudamani said, first of all, it is by annihilating the sense of self. It's by stopping all the waves of the mind stirred up by the ego. It is by discriminating against the inner reality that the wise person comes to identify so intimately with this reality that he exclaims, I am that. Stopping the movement of the mind is nothing more nor less than what Patanjali explained in his Yoga Sutra. Verse 2 is just saying yoga is the suppression of the modification of mind and nothing else. No fancy, extraordinary experience, just identifying the source of the modification of the mind and quietly letting them disappear. And, as he said, then the seer abides in itself. Shankaracharya would add that do not in any circumstance cease to contemplate the self and contemplate only it. Let your thought be concentrated on the self, the one without a second. And the image is quite interesting. When a picture breaks into pieces, the ether imprisoned in this picture unites before our eyes with the limitless ether. The third bullet is learn through experience the complete reality of all phenomena in this visible cosmos. This sounds like an impossible mission, don't you think? I think. Yet, this is what Madame Blavatsky strongly recommends. When she told us, know all that you can, become conversant with and sift all that the schools have declared and as much more on your own account as possible. So there is a requirement there for everyone involved in the movement to try to use his best knowledge and experience to gain an understanding of at least what the science is telling us, what the tradition are telling us. This is a must. And I'm back to the discussion we have about trying to connect the bridge with the scientific community. If we want to be able to discuss, argue, and be convincing with any foreigner, we need first of all to know his or her language. It is probably not necessary to master the most advanced technique, like a quantum field, superstring, and the M-theory. But being able to understand the basic concept and to follow new discoveries seems the minimum required in order to be able to discuss with these people. It may seem a big challenge, but a rewarding one. Why? Because I'm still convinced, since I launched this initiative on science and tradition, that if we could convince, and not only with words, but with demonstration about what is inside our tradition, can really help the scientific community to understand what they don't understand, and there are so many things they don't understand, that they would first of all turn an eye on the tradition, but more important, there are 7 million researchers in the world, and they have a big impact on our society. So if we could convince them, and again, not convince, demonstrate to them, they would be a loudspeaker incredible to promote the teaching in the world. Scientific knowledge and discovery are now available on real time. Most of the scientific papers are freely released, and a lot of popularization books are published. So we don't have any more excuse there. One need to be cautious about fake scientific news or conspiracy theory, which are flourishing on the media. Technology driven, or let's say the implementation of technology driven by greed is driving our human world community on an unchained, tempestuous ocean full of reefs. So-called artificial intelligence is one of the latest tools which can enslave a population. To debunk it, we need, like we've heard this morning, to take a look under the hood. It is but the use of massive data, our human data, by the way, which is stolen on the net, collected on the web using statistical algorithm and model like the large language model. It is nothing more than the basic human mental engine way of operating. There is no intelligence at all. But because a large majority of our brothers and sisters drive their lives and behavior on this type of engine, the mental intellectual capability, it will have a large impact on our society. But fortunately, we are more than a computer, a human computer, and the inner flame will make its way out to illuminate the world. It will just take some time. Finally, achieve complete detachment from all that is evanescent and finite, while continuing to live on earth only in the eternal and immortal is a state of supreme holiness. Listen again to Shankaracharya. Maybe to Shankaracharya. Yeah. No, we'll listen. Enjoy the bliss of the self, O my noble child, and dedicate to the self all the hour of your existence. And we'll conclude with a poem from Geoffrey Hudson. The name of the poem is The Mystic Prayer. Lay me to sleep in sheltering flame, O master of the hidden fire. Wash my pure ray heart and cleanse for me my soul's desire. In flame of sunrise, bath my mind, O master of the hidden fire, that when I wake, clear eye may be my soul's desire. Thank you.